Okay, Reed, this week we've learned a lot about choices, decisions. We learned about alcoholism, choices that people make about drugs. We're hoping that you walk away from this with an experience that you make good choices, that those good choices make sure that you lived your life to the fullest.
Good morning, Mead Mustangs. We are very excited to end Red Ribbon Week with our guest speaker today. You probably all know Mr. Donovan. But I bet you didn't know he's also an inspirational speaker. With that, let's give him a big round of applause, Mr. Donovan.
Well, yes I am, Mr. Donovan. How many have had me sub for their class this year? I think I see almost every hand go up. I've been here a long time. I was teaching here the first day this building opened, that was in 1980. So I've seen a lot of Red Ribbon Weeks in my day. We've been doing that for a long, long time, and as I know you're all aware, Red Ribbon Week is that time of year when we try to encourage you to avoid drugs and alcohol. Now, I've given this speech I'm going to give today, I've given it twice before. And every time I give it, I start with kind of a negative message. Now, that might seem a strange way to start an inspirational speech, but I think it's important to think about. And the message is this: life is hard. It's hard. Every person in this room is going to go through some tough times. Every one of you. In fact, I can guarantee that there are probably people in here who are going through rough times right now. Now, we can tell you with drugs and alcohol to just say no. But during those tough times, that's when it's especially hard to say no. That's when it's especially difficult. Because when you're going through a rough time, sometimes you say to yourself, man, I would do anything to feel better. I would do just anything to feel better. And then the temptation hits. So the question is, how do you just say no during those hard times? And the answer is one word. It's hope. Hope that things will get better. Hope that there's a brighter tomorrow. Hope that things aren't always going to be that way. And you know what? That's true. Even though life is hard, there's glorious, wonderful times too. There's times where you're just filled with joy. And just because you're going through a hard time doesn't mean those times aren't there in the future. Now, one of those things that I really think can add your hope are your dreams. We've all got them. We all have dreams. But sometimes we say to ourselves, well, dreams, that's just something in our heads. You know, it's not real. It can't happen to me. Well, I'm here to tell you today that you can live your dreams. You can live your dreams. And I want to give you some rules that if you follow, I guarantee you're going to start living some of your dreams. Now, I was teaching Mrs. Hinchy's class, and she had a lesson on Aristotle. And Aristotle was talking about what makes an effective speaker. And he talked about ethos. A speaker should establish his ethos, which is his credibility. So when a speaker gets up, you know, he can tell you, well, you should do this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, but the speaker should convince you that he knows what he's talking about. So what I'm going to do next, it doesn't make me real comfortable, and I don't really like doing it, but I thought I would list for you some of the dreams I've lived in my life, just to show you that I might know what I'm talking about. Now, the danger of me listing these dreams is you might think that I'm trying to say I'm a little better than you, or, you know, I'm a great person, but the point of this speech today is I'm not. I'm just like you. I'm just like every person who's just found a few things and a few ways to live some dreams. So I'm going to go through this quickly just to kind of convince you that there's some of the things that I've done over my life, so we can hit the button. Let's see. I once, well, for several years, hosted a local access TV show. I got interviewed on the local news. I wrote a book. I wrote an article for a national magazine. I wrote an article for a local newspaper. I've acted in several plays. I read some comedy on the radio one time. I crossed Abbey Road like the Beatles, and we'll talk about the Beatles later. I met Ernie Banks, my boyhood hero. I ran a couple of distance races that there was an Olympic gold medalist in the race. I was elected Citizen of the Year in Carroll Stream. That I didn't care about, but what I did care about is I got to give an acceptance speech, because one of my dreams was, to win an Oscar. Not to win an Oscar, but so I could get up, I'd like to thank the Academy for this award, and I have several people to thank for it. I always kind of dreamed of that acceptance speech, so I got to give an acceptance speech. That was better than the award, actually. Given countless speeches. I'm living a dream right now. I love public speaking. This is my dream. Doing what I'm doing now is what I love. I perform comedy skits for audiences. I visited countless historical sites. I did teach history. I love history. I ran a half marathon. I did that twice, actually. I had a job as a cartoonist. I visited 23 baseball stadiums, visited 18 football stadiums, including 6 bowl games. I've been the MC at many banquets. I performed improv for the first time 2 months ago. I've never done this before. I got involved in this, and actually I just had a meeting last night. We're going to do some more improv. I didn't say it was good improv. I just said I just did improv. And finally, Ms. Donovan, I married the girl of my dreams. Now, I know what you're saying to me right now. Or some of you are saying this. You say, well, Mr. Donovan, you don't know me. I'm timid. I'm shy. I don't have the courage to do these things. I'm kind of afraid. I couldn't live those dreams because, well, I just don't have it in me. Well, I want to tell you, I understand that too, because I was once just like you. When I was in 8th grade, when I was in 7th grade, I was not cool. And I was looking for a picture of me in junior high, and then I went through the clip art and I thought, man, that looks more like me in junior high than any pictures I could find. So I wasn't a cool kid. And because of it, I did experience some bullying, not to the extent that a lot of people do, but I had some bullying, and kids would make fun of me, and I just did not really enjoy junior high because of it, and I didn't enjoy high school either. I thought I'd tell you a story about when I was in junior high. I went to Carl Sandburg Junior High in Rolling Meadows, Illinois, and the science Mrs. Green went to Carl Sandburg, and Mrs. Donovan went to Carl Sandburg, and Mr. Laudermilk went to Carl Sandburg. There's a whole bunch of us. Carl Sandburg Junior High. And like all junior highs, they wanted to keep us out of trouble. So on Friday nights, to get us off the streets, they had something that they called Park District. And Park District had all kinds of activities for us junior high kids to stay off the streets. And Park District had open gym, where you could play basketball and volleyball. I love that. They had a game room where you could play various games. And then in the cafeteria, they had dancing. They had a jukebox in there. Well, when I was in junior high, my #1 goal was not to do anything stupid and not to do anything where people would make fun of me. So there was no way you were going to get me to dance. And we had to go through the cafeteria. I don't know if it was still like this, Mr. Laudermilk, but when you went to Carl Sandburg, but we had to go through the cafeteria where the dancing was to get to the gym. And I remember thinking, oh man, I don't want anybody to ask me to dance. I don't want to get out there. I don't want to make a fool of me. So I went dashing through the cafeteria as fast as I could. One evening, I wasn't fast enough, and my friend Bob Scott, who is still my friend, I talked to him last month. We old guys stick together. He stopped me. I'm going through there like this, and it was like he stood in front of me like this. Wait, stop! He didn't really do that, but it felt like it, because the next thing he asked me was my biggest fear. He said, "Why don't you ask Carol to dance?" And I looked over at Carol, and I'm thinking, I don't want to know, they're going to make fun of me, and it's just going to be embarrassing, and I don't want to take any kind of chance, and I'm not going to do that. And I goes, oh, no, I'm not going to, no way, I said. And I went through there, and I went back and played in the gym. Now, this doesn't seem like a big deal, Now, if I know junior high kids, I bet there's some of you out here thinking kind of the same way. Dance. So it doesn't seem like a big deal, but you see, it became a habit with me. I became so worried about not dancing that it lasted all through high school. When I went through high school, I never went to a single dance. When I was a senior, there was this girl who wanted to go to the prom with me. And I really would have liked to have gone to the prom with her. And her friends tried to get me to take her to the prom. And then they tried to trick me to go to the prom. But I would not take that chance, simply because I was afraid to dance. Now again, you might still think, well, this is no big deal, so what? Well, it became a habit. I started not taking chances every chance I had. When I was a kid, my parents used to take me to musicals. And I used to love musicals, and is Mr. Barbini here? I know Mr. Barbini, he doesn't, right there. He doesn't care for musicals. But my father was a Marine, Mr. Barbini, so yes, real men like musicals. Real men. Anyway, I enjoyed them so much that I would have liked to have acted in musicals. I would have liked to have been in these plays. I would have really enjoyed to do this. It was seriously a dream of mine. It was a dream of mine. Sophomore year, Miss Fine's class, we're reading a play. And I remember the name of the play to this day. It was 1,000 Clowns. And you know how it is when you read a play in class. She gives everybody parts. And she gave me the part of the boy. I don't remember the boy's name, but I remember the part. And so I read through it. At the end of the class, she came up to me and she said, you know, Mark, I'm the director of the musical. And we're doing Guys and Dolls this year. And I think you would be perfect for the part of Nicely Nicely. Now, I love Guys and Dolls, and many years later I had the privilege of seeing my daughter in it. But back then, she said she was offering me the exact kind of part I liked. I didn't want the lead. I liked those little side parts that get all the laughs, you know, that's what I wanted. And here she was, the director of the musical, asking me to try out something I really wanted to do. But remember, I don't take chances. Or I didn't take chances. And so I didn't go to the audition. It was a habit. I had a habit of not living my dreams. So now you're wondering, well, what happened since high school that has changed me? Well, I learned some things since I've been in high school. And I want to share them with you now. And I really believe that if you start applying a few of these things to your life, that you're going to start to be doing things that you think are fun, things that you're going to enjoy. And you're not going to run around being afraid to do some of these things. So let's get to some of these rules. This is the first one. You've got to get your head in the game. You've got to have your dreams. You've got to have your dreams in your head. In sports, they call it visualization. You know, you visualize. And the thing is, I don't know why we lose the ability to pretend. You watch little kids, they're running around and they're just having a blast. They're being what, Ninja Turtles? Or what do little kids play and pretend they are now? What do they do? Huh? Power Rangers, right. So they get on those goofy outfits and they're so happy and they're pretending and they're living it. And somewhere along the line we get the idea that this isn't cool not to pretend. But I'm telling you, pretending gets you ready for the whole thing. It's the first step. So, hang on just a second. Oh, there I am. This is from the Meade yearbook. This was 1982. Now I want you to notice the guns on this guy. I was in shape when I was young. This is the guy Mrs. Donovan fell in love with. Now, what's this got to do with pretending? I'm not pretending. That guy looks good. Well, except for the mustache. But anyway, when Mrs. Donovan and I were dating, I heard about a movie that I thought might be pretty good. It was Rocky. And we went out to see Rocky. And man, I love that movie. How many here have seen Rocky? Or any other version of it? Okay, if you haven't seen it, it's the fictional story of a boxer in Philadelphia. And this, in his own words, he's kind of a bum. He's not very good. And he fights in crummy little clubs, and he fights against other boxers who are not very good. Then one day, he gets a million to one shot to fight the heavyweight champion of the world. And he has this dream. And you might think that the dream is to beat the heavyweight champion. But that's not his dream. His dream is, when he gets into the ring with the heavyweight champion, his dream is that he just lasts 15 rounds without getting knocked out. Just 15 rounds without getting knocked out. And then he says, my favorite line in the movie, then I'll know that I just wasn't some bum from the neighborhood. So anyway, this movie got into me. I mean, I just loved it. So I, quite seriously, started pretending I was Rocky. And I started running. And that's how I ended up doing those half marathons and everything. Just like Rocky when he's training, you know, I was running. And I would, and now I do it with my iPod when I still do it. I do the Rocky theme when I was running. And any time I was having trouble, I run going, and then the thing that would get me is that Rocky theme. And it still does. I'm not kidding. I go out to the health club, and I'm working out, and I'm running out of gas. I put that on my iPod, and boom, it gets going. There's a scene in Rocky where he takes 6 raw eggs when he's not in very good shape. It's near the beginning of the movie. He's not in very good shape. He's trying to get back in shape. He breaks these 6 raw eggs for breakfast and he drinks them. I am proud to say, well no, I guess I shouldn't be proud to say that one morning I even did that. I got up in our apartment early in the morning and broke these 6 eggs in a glass and I drank them. That's how much I was pretending I was Rocky. I've since found out that's very bad for you, so don't do that. You can get salmonella poisoning, you can get sick, you can throw up. Rocky was not a good example as far as that goes. But anyway, so what? You know, the thing is, I'm sitting there and I'm pretending, and you know what really happened is I got in pretty good shape. It was a good thing, and it was fun, and I enjoyed it. Later on, many years later, our oldest son moved to Philadelphia. Same town that Rocky's from. We're driving around in a tour bus. Mrs. Donovan came, Mr. Baranek, I don't know if Mr. Baranek's here today, and he came with us because he wanted to go see a Phillies game. And you get on this double-decker bus and you can drive around, they bring you around Philadelphia, and we saw Independence Hall where they signed the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution was written, and we saw Betsy Ross's house. And then we're driving in the bus and I see in the distance, it's the Philadelphia Art Museum. Now, this would only mean something to crazy, nutty Rocky fans. But the Philadelphia Art Museum has what seems like, I don't know how many, 100 steps that lead up to this big, beautiful building. And these are the steps that at the end of the movie, when Rocky is feeling good and he's in shape, and they have this great training montage, and he's doing one-handed push-ups, which I also tried. I never got that. One-handed push-ups, and he's lifting weights. In one of the movies, he's even chasing a chicken. And then you know he's in shape, and then he comes and he's running down the street, and there it is, the steps of the Philadelphia Art Museum, and he goes running up the steps, and he raises his hands in triumph, and you know he's ready for the fight. Well, when I saw that, I couldn't get out of that bus fast enough. And there I am, running up those steps. Now I was about 50 pounds heavier then. I kind of lost my Rocky physique, but now you might still think you're crazy, Mr. Donovan. That's not a big deal. But look, here's some other crazy people running up there. They're doing it too. I found out that every day of the year, people are running up those steps pretending they're Rocky. There's so many people doing this that a Philadelphia newspaper reporter, he wrote a book. He spent a year at the Rocky Steps interviewing people about why they were running. And he found people that were coming all the way from Australia just to do this. People from Japan, they're coming from all over the world just to live that dream of running the steps. And I want to share my favorite Rocky story from the book. It involves this woman right here. Her name is Nellie. When she was in high school, she was a 3-letter athlete. She was a dancer. She had total control of her body. Freshman in college, she gets in the car with her mother. She forgets to put on her seatbelt, and she gets in a horrible accident. The accident left her with brain damage. She's a quadriplegic. She can't use her legs, can't use her arms. She can do one thing. She can move her index finger. She can't speak, and her vision is so altered that she's considered legally blind. In spite of that, through the help of a lot of friends, she graduated from college. Then after that, she went to Yale to get her divinity degree, where she became a minister. And she's a minister at a local Philadelphia church. She gives a sermon, this is her job, she gives a sermon once every 4 months. Well, she doesn't give it. Somebody has to read it for her. And you're wondering, well, why every 4 months? Well, because it takes her that long with that one finger that she can use to write that sermon. And it's click, click, click. And if she makes a mistake, delete, delete, delete. So one year she gets an idea. She said, it'd be neat to get a funny Christmas card. Maybe put it on the front of me at the top of the Rocky Steps. So she got some friends, and they wheeled her up the stairs. And when they got her to the top of the stairs, one friend grabbed one hand, and another friend grabbed her other hand, and lifted her hands in triumph, just like Rocky in the movie. So you still think pretending is stupid? I don't. It's good for the soul. All right, let's get to some other rules. All right, this one I touched on briefly. Cool is the enemy of dreams. Cool is the enemy of dreams. Do you want to be cool, or do you want to live your dreams? See, the problem is cool is very restricting. You know, there's a way you have to act. That's, you know, hey, don't do that, that's not cool. Well, that's not cool. And you find yourself, you're so busy being cool that you find out you're not yourself. And if you're not yourself, how can you even admit what your dreams are? It's why, you know, really when I was in junior high, I'm glad I wasn't considered cool. And when we raised our kids, that was the least of our goals for them, to have them cool or to have them be popular. I mean, it's wonderful to be popular, it's wonderful to have friends, but it can be a danger, especially to your dreams. Now, this is odd. Your first is going to excellence is the enemy of dreams. I am not saying the pursuit of excellence is the enemy of dreams. It is wonderful to pursue excellence. But too many of us think that we have to be good anytime we try something. You know, we got to be good. Yeah, I don't like that. I'm not good, so you don't do it. I don't want to do that. I'm not good at that, so you don't do it. There was an author, Robert Fulghum, and he wrote a book, Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. And because of that book, he used to go around and talk at elementary schools. And he did an experiment one time. He went to kindergartens. And he'd go to the kindergarten rooms and he'd say, who here can draw? Who here can draw? And he said every hand would go up. Every hand in the kindergarten class would go up. And you know what? Those kids are right. Kindergartners can draw. Anybody who has seen a kindergartner draw his family, you know exactly what it is. There's mom and dad. Mom and dad are big. And then there's the brothers and sisters. And then there's the kindergartner who's always bigger than they because he thinks he's a little more important than the rest of the family. And those are great drawings, and that kindergartner draws it, and they're fantastic. And how good are they? They're good enough to go up on refrigerators all over our country. kindergartners can draw. Then he said he would go to 6th graders. And he'd ask 6th graders, how many of you can draw? And he said there'd be 1 or 2 hands that go up. And he said to himself, what happens? What happens to these kids that they can all draw when they're in kindergarten, and then none of them think they can when they're in 6th grade? Well, it's this thing. It's this idea that everything you have to do is excellent. You walk in, and I know how it is, there's about 3rd grade, and there's a kid who's really a good drawer, and then you look at it, and I can't do that, and then you stop. Then you stop. You know, I mean, anybody who ever plays that game Pictionary, you always have those people, why can't you? I don't want to play. That's, come on, play, have fun. This is my big bugaboo, and it's getting worse. Fame is the enemy of dreams. Fame is the enemy of dreams. Now, I enjoy watching American Idol, but it's about as guilty of this as anything else. Because now, nobody wants to be a singer anymore. They want to be a famous singer. Nobody wants to be an actor anymore. I want to be a famous actor. I want to be a famous artist. You know, this fame gets all mixed up in our dreams, and then what happens is we don't notice when we're actually living our dreams. If you're singing, but you want to be a famous singer, you don't think you're living your dreams. You're just singing. But if you just want to be a singer, every time you're singing, you know you're living your dream. Forget the fame. I really have bad news for you. This is bad news for those of you who want to be famous. I've been here since the building opened. I don't know, do you know anybody who's famous? I mean, look at all these kids and then multiply it by the many years. There's nothing wrong with becoming famous, but the problem is it messes with your head and you don't really realize when it is you're living your dreams. If you want to be a singer, anytime you sing, you're living your dreams. My daughter, Courtney, actually had a friend who was on American Idol. And I was thinking of her last night, especially because we watched American Idol last night, and those early episodes, you know how they get those bad singers on, and then really they kind of do it to make fun of them? You know what I'm talking about? All right. They had that on last night. Well, Courtney's friend Alana tried out in Chicago for American Idol, and she didn't do very well. In fact, she was one of the ones that they put on and showed her not doing very well. And anybody who's ever sung, you know, even the good singers, sometimes you lose that note, you just can't find it, and that's what was going on with her. She couldn't find the note, and then Simon and Randy were trying to help her find the note, and luckily they were actually pretty nice to her. It was kind of cute. They were trying to help her find the note, and then at the end they told her, well, we were happy that we could give you some singing lessons. But then she's leaving, and you know, Ryan Seacrest asked her how she liked the audition. And she said something that shows me she gets it. She said, I had fun. I had fun. And you know what? How cool. She was there on American Idol. Did she do that well? No. But she knew enough, hey, here's a dream. I'll try it. Didn't do too well, but I had fun. That's a terrific attitude if you want to live dreams. Because not everything you're going to try is going to be excellent, like I talked about before, and it's certainly not going to make you famous. This I got from my father. You might think this is, what's this got to do with dreams? But my dad told me one time, never pass up the opportunity to say good job. And you're thinking, well, how could that help you live your dreams? Well, let's see, how can I? All right, I'll illustrate this with a story. When I was a kid, my father loved college football. And it didn't make any difference. It was Division I, Division II, Division III, he loved it all. Dr. Hannigan, he would have talked forever with your experiences of playing college football. He loved it all. And I grew to love college football, and I still do. And we lived for a brief period of time in Evanston, which is just down in an apartment just down the street from where Northwestern plays, and that's their stadium, home of the Wildcats. And I became a big fan. So when I was a kid, I wanted to play football for Northwestern. I mean, that's what oh man, I would have loved that. In fact, when we played football in the backyard, half the time I was pretending I was Tommy Myers, who's the quarterback for the 62 team. I really would have loved that. When I was a kid, they didn't have these youth leagues for football, so there was no organized football. Your first taste of organized football was going to be high school. So I was looking forward to playing in high school. We'd play out in the backyard, but high school was going to get me to wherever I thought I was going to go. But unfortunately, when I was in 6th, 7th grade, I developed really severe asthma. Hospitalized with it twice. My mom claims I almost died one time, but that's my mother. But it was bad. And I remember when I was after I graduated from 8th grade, the coaches of the high school team, they sent this letter, and it said, this is what you're going to need to do if you even hope to make it through football camp. And you'd open it up, and it says, you have to do this many wind sprints, and you'd be able to do this many push-ups, this many sit-ups. And they said, you've got to be in shape. You can't just walk in and do football without being ready. So I already told you how I was about taking chances, so I don't even know if I would have tried out with football. I might have. I'd done some athletics. It wouldn't have seemed like taking a big chance for me. So I went out in the back, and I think, well, maybe I can do this. So I still remember I ran 3 50-yard wind sprints. I can even tell you what the weather was that day. It was a long time ago, but I just remember this. And it was hot, and I ran 3 wind sprints, 50 yards. Asthma attack. Boom! I was in the house for 3 days. My asthma was so bad. And I'm thinking, well, that's it. I'm just never gonna be able to play football. Many years later, we were still going to games, and we had season tickets. We still do. Go all the time. And I went in, and I can remember we were parked right about here. Okay, that's where our car was parked. And we parked next to this guy, and I'm talking to him, and he said he was the stadium announcer. Now, you know what the stadium announcer is, First and 10, Michigan State, Napoleon Harrison on the tackle. But this guy was great. I'm serious, he was just one fantastic stadium announcer. And I'm not making this up, he's the best. I told you, I've been to a lot of football stadiums, been to a lot of football games. This guy was great. He could really rev up the crowd. And so I told him, I was really excited. I said, man, you are really good. You really do a good job. I went on and on and on. And he could tell I was sincere, because I was. This guy was great. And I told him, this is it, get into that habit. It's not that hard to say good job. So many people are, I don't know. Do it, say good job. So anyway, he says, hey, well, thank you very much. What's your name? I said, Mark Donovan. He said, I'll tell you what. Listen, in the 3rd quarter, I'm going to credit you with a tackle. I said, what? He says, I'm going to announce that you made the tackle. Awesome. Come on, really? Oh, this is great. So, went into the game, 3rd quarter. By the 3rd quarter, I'm kind of listening to him, but I'm thinking, he's not really going to do this, is he? He's not really going to announce it. And it was Michigan State, Northwestern was ranked, Michigan State was ranked, big game, the stadium's full, and then he said it, Mark Donovan in on the tackle. I don't know if you'll understand, but it was enough. It was enough. It was like, I lived my dream. Here I am, the place I love. He gave me credit for a tackle. It was enough. And just because I appreciated what he did that for me. And he had no idea how much it meant to me. Oh, by the way, he credited me with 2 other tackles. He started going crazy. Man, I was all over the field. This is kind of a corollary. And this is the hardest one to do, but I'm telling you, this one is magic. Never forget this one. Never. What we do is when we're living a dream, when we have a dream, and we see somebody else, like I want to be a comedian, and this guy here, oh man, he's funny, he's a comedian. Now I have one of 2 ways of reacting to that. I have the way most people react and be jealous. You don't deserve that. I'm funnier than you are. I'm way funnier than you are. Okay, that's the natural thing, and you know we do it. It's so natural to be jealous of other people. I'm telling you, it is magic if you can be happy for other people who are living your dreams. For two reasons. One, they know how to live that dream. And two, because you have genuine joy for that person, you will find that they will help you live your dreams. I was watching TV one night, and Northern Illinois Huskies were playing football. Mr. Donovan, come on, give it up for the Huskies. Yeah, all right. Anyway, I'm watching the game and they're playing Maryland, and again, Maryland was ranked, and the Huskies upset them. But that wasn't the point. I'm watching the game, and I look at the sideline, and there's a guy holding the a post that marks the line of scrimmage. And I look at him, and I said, that looks like Mr. Bach. A little while later, there's that guy again. And I'm thinking, I think that is Mr. Bach. The third time I look over, that's Mr. Bach! Holy cow, would I love to do that! He's down there on the field watching the football game, he's out there, he's working the chains, it was cool. Now I could have been jealous of him because I would love to have done that, I could have been. But I saw him the next day and I said, because I think it was a weeknight game, it might have been the following Monday, hey, Mr. Bach, I said, was that you working the chains? That is really cool, man, that is great. And I was really happy for him. And he says he worked all the games. And he said, he could tell I was excited. And he said, would you like to work those games? Oh man, would I? He says, well, I have to get somebody for every game. Just pick a game and I'll have you come work the game. Because I was happy for him, he saw my joy in it, and I got to share in his dream. So I got there and they gave me the orange arrow. Those of you who watch football, that's a very important thing. The orange arrow. Oh. And you lay it down right where they're going to make the first down. And I went up and down the field putting down the orange arrow. And they gave me a little outfit. And before the game, the refs came over and told me how to do this. I'm talking to the refs, and it was a nationally televised game, and there's the sports lady over there interviewing people. And I got this great seat, and I'm watching football to a place I would have paid to do this, but they were paying me. They were paying me. And the greatest moment came when I actually got hit. There's a play going down there, and they told me, when you do this, make sure you keep your eyes open. You gotta keep your eyes open. But I didn't. I'm watching the game because I love the football, and I'm looking down here, and a cornerback comes rolling into the sidelines, and he hits me in the knee. And I could feel my knees start to give, and I'm thinking, how do knees ever last through this game? He hits me here, and I jumped up, and then he rolled under me. And one of the players said, you got hops, baby! Oh yeah, I got hit. So now I made 3 tackles in college football, and I've been hit. I played the game, you better believe I played the game. This is an odd one. And this you have to guard against. It's kind of like fame. Praise can be dangerous. Praise can be dangerous because, again, it refocuses you. When you start living your dreams, you know, so many people are going to come up and they're going to start saying, hey, good job, that was really good, that was really good, that was really, you did a good job. And suddenly, your dream becomes going after the praise rather than just enjoying what you're doing. And so then, every time you live your dream, if people aren't running up and telling you how wonderful you are, then you think, oh, that wasn't so good, I wasn't so good, and then, you just, praise is great, but don't live on it. Enjoy the moment. Like, I'm enjoying speaking right now. This is why I do it. So, be careful of praise. And then there's another thing, and I heard a lot of people suffer from this. Praise makes some people freeze. It makes, well, another story. My son Luke, he works this, he really considers this his dream job. He's writing comedy trivia questions for a computer game. And he just loves this. And he loves going to work, and he's just like, this is his dream. Well, one week, they got nominated for the Spike TV Video Game Award. And they were about to get national recognition for this game that he was writing for. And he goes in, he comes home Monday. I said, well, Luke, how was your day? He says, oh, I didn't do too well. I said, what? What do you mean? He said, well, this award, it's kind of, it just makes me feel like a fraud. I don't feel like I'm that good. Why are we getting this, you know, I don't feel that good. I'm just kind of, it makes me feel like I'm a pretender, that I don't deserve this kind of praise. And I told him, and I'll tell you too, I said, Luke, forget about that. You love this job. Just enjoy doing the job. You can't let what other people do or say or think affect your dream. Just go in there and remember, you just love doing it. Do it. And it helped. He went back and it was all over. By the way, they won that award. You can applaud. Thank you very much. I'll take credit for him. I found this out when I had kids, that there is more joy in helping others live their dreams. My oldest son was playing Little League baseball, 8th grade. He was in 8th grade. He was also in the Scouts, and they were away at camp. And he wanted to be at camp, which was a 2.5-hour drive away, and they made the playoffs. Dad, I don't want to miss the playoff game. I want to play the playoff game. All right. So I hopped in the car, drove 2.5 hours, picked him up, drove him to the game, watching the game, and in the last inning, he won the game with an unbelievable catch in center field, seriously. And I was watching that and I'm thinking, I was happier at that moment, happier for him than I ever was in any dreams that I ever lived. I was happier for him, for his dream, than I was for any dream that I had lived. And it was really nice because I helped him make it. I drove 2.5 hours. And then, game was over, 2.5 hours back to camp. But that one moment of joy, helping somebody else live a dream, can be far more rewarding. And that's going to lead to a story that's written by Rick Tellender, and we're going to have Ms. Garfinkel read it for us, because I think you might be tired of my voice. So, Ms. Garfinkel, and this is about many, many kids helping somebody live a dream.
Okay, the best college tradition is not dotting the I at Ohio State. It's not stealing the goat from Navy or waving the wheat at Kansas. It's picking up butch at Middlebury College. For 42 years, Middlebury freshman athletes have been picking up butch for football and basketball games. It's a sign-up sheet thing. Carry the ball bags, gather all the towels, pick up butch. Basketball players, men and women, do it during football season. Football players do it during basketball season. 2 hours before each home game, 2 freshmen grab whatever car they can get and drive a mile off campus to the tiny house where 54-year-old Butch Varno lives with his 73-year-old mother, Helen, who never got her driver's license. And they literally pick up Butch, who's 5'3" and 170 pounds, right off his bed. They put him in his wheelchair and push him out of the house, or one guy hauls him in a fireman's carry. They pile him into the car, cram the wheelchair into the trunk, take him to the game, and roll him to his spot in the mezzanine for football games or at the end of the bench for basketball. Butch always smiles and says the same thing from the bottom of his heart. CP just sucks. Cerebral palsy. While his fondest dream has always been to play basketball, it'll never happen. There is little that he can physically do for himself. At first, you're a little nervous. You're like, I don't know, says freshman wide receiver Ryan Armstrong. But the older guys say, we did it when we were freshmen. Now you go get him. It's tradition. So me and my buddy got him the first week. He's pretty heavy. We bumped his head a couple of times getting him into the car. He's like, hey, be careful. But he loves getting out so much that afterward you feel good. It's fun to put a smile like that on somebody's face. And the kids don't just pick up Butch. They also keep Butch company, take Butch to the bathroom, feed Butch. He always likes a hot dog and a Coke, says 6'8" Clark Reed, 19, a power forward. It's kind of weird at first sticking a hot dog in his mouth. The trick is to throw out the last bite so that he doesn't get your fingers. Thanks to 42 years of freshman, Butch hardly ever misses a Middlebury game. Not that he hasn't been late. One day this year, the two guys were calling me on their cell, says Armstrong, and they're going, we can't find Butch. And I'm like, you lost Butch? How can you lose Butch? It turns out they just couldn't find his house. Nobody at Middlebury remembers quite how picking up Butch got started, but Butch does. It was 1961. He was 13 and his grandmother, a housekeeper at the dorms, wheeled him to a football game. It started snowing halfway through, and afterward she couldn't push him all the way back home. A student named Roger Ralph asked them if they needed a ride. Ever since then, Butch has been buried in the middle of Middlebury sports. Sometimes he gives the basketball team a pregame speech, which is usually, I love you guys. He holds the game ball during warm-ups and at halftime until the refs need it. He is held upright for the national anthem. Once in a while, just before tip-off, they put him in the middle of the players' huddle, where they all touch his head and holler, 1, 2, 3, together. When the action gets tense, the freshmen hold his hands to keep them from flailing. After the games, some of the players come back to the court and help him shuffle a few steps for exercise until he collapses back in his chair exhausted. Then it's home again, Butch chirping all the way. And it's not just the athletes at Middlebury who attend to him. Butch is a campus project. Students come by the house and help him nearly every day. Over the years, they taught him to read, and then last year they helped him get his GED. Somebody got him a graduation cap and gown to wear at the party they threw in his honor. During his thank you speech, Butch wept. These kids care what happens to me, Butch says. They don't have to, but they do. I don't know where I'd be without them. Probably in an institution. But that's not the question. The question is, where would they be without Butch? It makes you think, says Armstrong. We're all young athletes. Going to a game or playing in a game, we take it for granted. But then you go pick up Butch, and I don't know, it makes you feel blessed. Now comes the worst time of the year, the months between the end of the basketball season last week and the start of football in August. It stinks, Butch says. He sits at home lonely day after day, watching nothing but Boston Red Sox games on TV, waiting for the calendar pages to turn to the days when he can be 1, 2, 3 together again with the students he loves. On that day, the door will swing open, and standing there young and strong will be 2 freshmen. And really, just seeing them is what picking up Butch is all about.
If we share our dreams, they're more likely to come together. We're all in this together. And you'll notice a lot of these things are about being happy for others, helping others live their dreams, telling others you give a good job, you do a good job. When you're that kind of person, they help you live your dreams. Okay, now I told you most of these are easy, and most of them are. But you're going to come up, all these things are going to prepare you for this moment. Eventually, you will just have to take that chance. Eventually, you're just going to have to take a chance. And you'll know when that moment comes. With me, you know, I said I love speaking, and people can hardly believe that I don't get nervous doing this, but there was a time. And I remember that time. My father asked me to give a speech. And I didn't want to. It was that moment I had to take a chance. And I was absolutely miserable the week before. Just absolutely miserable. Oh, it's gonna be terrible. Oh, somebody just, But I finally knew, this is it. This is the moment. I got to take that chance. This week, I couldn't believe it. I just 2 days ago found the notes from that first speech. I still have them. I had no idea they were there, but I just found them 2 days ago. You will know when that moment comes. And when that moment does come, something will happen to you, just like this little girl who's ready to dive in. You know how it is when you go off that diving board, that first time, oh man, and you do it. Second time, easier. Third time, easier still. And pretty soon you don't even remember that you were ever scared to jump off a high board, jump off the diving board. And that will happen that moment you take that first chance. You'll find the next time, boy, this is way easier than it was the first time. This is way easier. Prepare your mind, do all those other things, and then when that moment comes, remember, it's going to be that time. You're just going to have to take that chance. You can run away, like I did many, many times in my life, but when you take that first chance, the rest of them will become easy. The rest of them will become easy. Last story. Yay! He's almost done! Fairly recently, it's a brand new ending to my speech because something happened. We went to my high school reunion. Well, I was going to say we, except Mrs. Donovan got sick and she didn't go. But anyway, because I'm a different person, remember how I was in high school? No involvement, I didn't do anything. I volunteered to be on the high school reunion committee. And I actually got the restaurant I was in, and I got, I planned all these things, and I worked hard on the committee, and we got to the reunion, and a bunch of, now they're not kids anymore, they were kids, but a bunch of it, all the class of Forest View High School class of 71 were there, and then the committee asked me to speak, and I was the only one. And I'm going to guess that there were probably some kids there thinking, who is this? And I got up and I gave a speech, and I was, suddenly it was like I'm class president. And this is somebody who's not involved at all, and now I'm the leader talking to everybody and all those other things, and suddenly I'm class president. Then something else happened that night. A friend of ours, Jean, asked me if I wanted to dance. And Mrs. Donovan knows Jean, so it's okay, right? It was all right. Yeah, it was okay. And they were playing music, and I got out there and I danced. Me, the guy who never danced in high school. Me. Oh yeah, I was busting some moves. And it was me, it was I, and a bunch of ladies from the high school Forest View class of 71. That's right. Yeah, I'm a player. Yeah, okay. As I'm driving home that night, it occurred to me I was the only man from the class who danced that night. And I'm thinking, what a switch. From the guy who's scared to death to being the only guy out there who danced. Boy, how things change. Now, I do not tell you this story to give you hope that think, oh boy, when I'm in my 50s, they'll treat me like I'm class president. No, there's no hope in that. I tell you this because there's one message involved here. You are not the person you will be. What you are now probably will bear very little resemblance to the person you're going to be as an adult. And how do you become that different? How do you become that different person? It's little steps. It's doing these little things that can get you from here to where you want to go. I want you to imagine that, let's say I want to be in that corner, all right? That's where I want to be. That's the person I want to be. It's off in that corner. But I'm heading off in this direction. And I take a bad step, like, you know, I don't want to go to dances, and I take a bad step, oh, I don't want to be in any auditions, and I start working over here, and pretty soon as I start making all these decisions, I end up way over there instead of way over there. But watch what you can do now. If I get over there, man, it's a long trip over here. But if I start now, that's a little thing. A little thing. Each little thing, and each little movement you make to becoming the person you want, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not some miracle. It's just little steps along the way. And so what are some little steps you can take? Well, I'll tell you right now. Don't do what I did. Get involved. Getting involved might even introduce you to some dreams you didn't realize you had. Get involved now. Here at Meet, there's so many things going on. Those lead to dreams. When you go into high school, get involved. You say, well, I want to be in plays, but I'm afraid to audition. Well, work on the crew. Or just buy tickets and go to the play. But don't be like me. Run to school, go to my first class, 9th period, head for home. Get involved in those little steps. You'll start to become the kind of person who's leading kind of an exciting life. Living some dreams. Living some dreams. All right, thank you very much.